thinking about Abstract Factory.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one is when
Yeah.
you did the your website.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was supposed to be consulting around the Abstract Factory company. I mean, I did have abstractfactory.io back in the days.
Yeah, I remember
Um,
that website. Yeah.
and then I moved everything to Motosso because that's my GitHub profile, so it's like source code related. And
Oh, I
the
see.
idea was to do consulting, like to have to be an expert in those tools that I also developed. So like to integrate my own tools in other companies. That was the goal. I mean, it didn't really come to fruition. So that's a topic
It's
in its own right. Like that
yeah,
was my first few years of running a business. It was straight out of doing character animation, and then
yeah,
I
the
wanted to
same.
do someone's pipeline. So that's so part of it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know
Wait.
if you want to dig into it, we can. There's a lot of
Yeah,
story there.
let's rewind a little bit
Sure.
and well, Marcus, like the so you started like you study like your formal studies are animation. I know you have I saw some of your drawings or your concept and stuff you did, like art, the art
Yeah,
part. I mean, code is art. Okay, don't get me wrong there, but it's another
sure.
type of art. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're really good in many things. I hope you're bad in something, so I don't feel that bad now. Like
Yeah,
like
there's
maybe
plenty of
running
things I'm
sports, you
right.
terrible. So I will be glad.
Yeah, I guess growing hair is one of the things I'm really bad
Oh well, me too, man. So that's that.
at. But it's
um,
true. I mean, I did regular high school like most people, and then I started the aesthetic, like when you eventually choose your direction in life, like you
mm,
turn 16 or whatever and you choose your direction. I did
yeah.
art, so that was my main direction. But after the first year or first like couple of months in that direction, I was like, this is too easy. That's what I was thinking.
Wow.
Because because the math and the anything technical, anything like complicated was very, very low level. Because it was focused on art. So I was like, I'm
Mm.
bored. Like it's
Ah, I see.
it's not engaging enough. So I switched to like the most complicated one with like the most math and most physics. And yeah, which is interesting. I haven't thought about that much because after I finished that, that's when I went to like animation schools, like to study Maya. It
Hmm.
was like a 2 year course also in Sweden. And after that, the idea was that you were supposed to get a job straight after that. It was like a very modern course, so it wasn't like a
Hmm.
typical university. And and yeah, so and after that, I didn't do any math, like no physics. Like it was very non-technical, very artistic. But
Hmm.
it was in Maya, so it was technical and artistic. That was like the best of both worlds. I think I found
Hmm.
my calling doing character animation in Sweden for advertising, and that was for Mindbender, for like the
Yeah.
old school listeners out there. They
Yeah.
would know this
I
company. I
was about
mean,
to say that it was it.
it's still around today, but like the glory days was back then when it was doing like the duplicators and the pirates, like
Yeah.
things that if you saw them, I think you would recognize
Yeah.
them. They were
Yeah, as a rigger, I remember like watching
all
because
right.
they posted some of the breakdowns of the rigs. They were like amazing and all the
Well,
like my God.
yeah.
Who did
I mean, the
that
story behind
these rigs?
like
What was you
there's a lot
or
of hmm?
who did the rigs there back then? You
Well,
were
I
animating.
mean, it was an auto rigger. We used advanced skeleton back then. But
Hmm.
the thing is that the thing that people know about the rig is what they eventually looked like when they were animated. And the animation had nothing to do with the rig because
Hmm.
we put keyframes on the vertices of these characters, and we made blend shapes for individual poses, and we keyed blend shapes on and off. That was our animation workflow. It was super basic and like
Hmm.
non-technical. None of us knew rigging or technical stuff.
Hmm.
This was a startup with three animators and one rendering guy, and so we just like made do. Like we knew what we wanted the picture to look like, and we didn't know how to get Maya to do those things other than just like moving the vertices, putting keyframes, going to another frame and moving those vertices, putting out the key. So because in Maya you can keyframe vertices. That's not very obvious. So like in the node editor, for example, you would have a connection to a curve node into the vertex of the so it's like you have like thousands of keyframes that you would
Oh,
never look at, but you could still keyframe them.
wow.
So the
I
rig
didn't know
that you
that
saw,
actually.
right? No, but that's because we did publish like a version of our rig.
Mhm.
Like I think it was one of the duplicators, like blending into a different pose. I don't know if we should like show it so we can maybe you can like add
Mhm.
it in post or something so they can see what it looks like because it looks very advanced
Mhm.
and people have asked us like how did you rig this character in this particular way? But like we didn't. It was just like a basic advanced skeleton output. We didn't know anything about how that worked, and then we just added lens shapes on top of the output of that rig, like on top of the
Wow.
mesh itself.
Yeah. I guess a lot of manual labor on that, like really like shot by
Yes.
shot.
Yeah, I mean, it was like frame by frame sculpting. So it was like as close to stop motion as you can get, with like the occasional interpolation. Like maybe we stop motion every
Mhm.
other frame and we let the middle frame be interpolated. So we got like a stop motion look for free
Mhm.
because it was basically stop motion. And then some of the smoothness from the interpolation. So look at it,
Yeah.
it was a good
That
mix.
yeah, that time must be. I mean, back then you must have a lot of fun doing that thing, I guess. No, like because
Yeah,
that
it was
was
great.
straight off the
Hmm.
school that you start doing these things, and they have all this kind of like viral kind of wave
Right.
coming to
Yeah, no,
you, and it
I really
feels
did
good,
join
kind of.
at yeah at the peak of their fame. It was very exciting to be part of that. And the animators, like the other two animators, they were also like they were top of their game. Like they were really good. So I learned a lot from them as well. And that was like my start into animation. So I was there
Mm.
for like 3 years or something, and
Yeah,
yeah, and then
and
moved
then
into commercials. Hmm?
yeah, and then you move it to London, I guess. After that,
Well,
you
so
did
that
you work in other places in Sweden before moving to London?
right. So yeah, so the timeline right now we're talking about 2006, and about so yeah, after Mindbender, I went like around Sweden for a couple of years working on primarily commercials.
Mm-hmm.
There was one film as well. The film was interesting because it was completely made in After Effects, and it was a it's like
What?
it was a feature film. It was like a cutout animation, like South Park,
Oh, yeah.
except for the each of the cutout pieces was not like hand painted cartoony. It was like photos. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
realistic cutout animation in After Effects, and which is crazy. Like
Do
someone
you
has
remember the
rigged the
name
character.
of the movie?
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
of course. Yeah, it's called Metropia. It's
I
a
think I
you
know.
may have heard of it. It's not very famous. It's famous in Europe, perhaps, and
Yeah, but I think I know. I remember to see uh,
right.
the trailer or Metropia at maybe 2009. Are we talking? Because it's
Yeah,
what
yeah, that's it.
Google is telling me. Oh yes, I remember this one.
It's
You
it's
worked
quite
there.
freaky. Like I've tried watching it now, like as a movie, just like sit down on the sofa and watch this movie. It's very slow, I don't like it very much. Like it's very slow, um,
Mhm.
and but it was a lot of
It's
fun. Like
very
it was also like
interesting.
I
Yeah.
could I sort of leverage my Maya experience working in After Effects because you still have like translate channels, you have a graph editor, and you could script as well. So I sort of learned how to
Mhm.
script a few things. It's like JavaScripting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm checking
Um,
here on the other on the other monitor. The, but yeah, I
sure, yeah.
remember. I didn't watch the movie. I guess it's. I mean, and honestly, after I wanted to watch it, but at some point, I guess I forgot that
It's
I want to watch it. But now
it's
I'm just gonna put it on my list. I'm gonna check it out if I can get it.
oh sorry. I'm just recovering from a cold as well. Well, I think you will find that it's going to be really interesting in the beginning because like I haven't seen another movie that does this style, like a cutout realistic adult, adult like a for adults movie.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so it's unique, but is it good? I don't know. Like I think IMDb gives it like a 6 or I don't know,
Well, I don't know.
which I think is
You
fair.
always feel like the projects you work, you are always very critical, even if
Well,
if,
I do have projects.
yeah.
I have worked on projects that I do think is excellent that I was very proud of to be part of. And I guess that brings us actually to after Sweden when moving to London. That was
Mhm.
2011. Then I went to Framestore because that's what I just came to London because I wanted to work at Framestore. I haven't told them about that. Like they didn't know.
Oh,
So I just,
why
I
the
just came
frame store?
here.
Because I mean, there are a lot of, but I mean, in 2011 there were a lot like places to work in
Yeah, I
animated
can't remember
studios.
exactly why Framestore, but I mean, I really liked Framestore. I still like Framestore today. It's like I think that was my favorite place to work. And I don't
Uh-huh.
know, I think my impression of Framestore was just really good. I didn't know anyone there, and I had no particular connection to it other than just like I liked that company. I wanted to be part of that company. And so I
Interesting.
just booked a flight to London and booked a hotel for 1 week. And in that time, I expected to find a flat, which that's also like a whole story because it was very difficult. Like it was not as easy as I was hoping. So like I remember the last day of my hotel when I checked out, I still didn't have a flat, but I couldn't go back to Sweden because that would be like a fail. That would be failing because I had a goal, which was to live
Wow.
in London and work at frame stores. If I moved back, I would be like, shit, I failed. So I took a very drastic, very risky gamble because I found a flat on like Gumtree, or is it Gum Road? One of them. It's like
I don't know. Sorry, the
it's like
London area.
it's the UK version of Craigslist. So like
Oh, I
a
see.
public place to post ads. So I found a flat there. It was a bit fishy. It was central. The location was good, but I couldn't get in into like transfer 6 months of rent up front because like I
Oops.
didn't have a bank account. I didn't have a sort of any history. He didn't know whether I was real, and I didn't know whether he was real. And I was like, should I fly back home and fail, or should I just transfer? It was like 20 grand or something because it was in London rents. And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
should I take
that's
this
crazy,
risk? It was
man.
like all my savings that I had made
And you did it.
put together for this trip. And I did.
That's
So
crazy, man.
like
Yeah, I
not
will.
recommended,
No,
unwise. But
no.
yeah, as luck would have it, that it was real. Like I actually got that flat, and I lived there for I think 2 years while I was working in a frame store. So lucky,
Wow.
and and yeah, and frame store like to continue the timeline. Now we're in 2012 or so, 2012 or so. I just finish up on Gravity, which is the one movie that I worked on that I think is really good, and I'm
Uh,
very happy with my work and the work that everyone did. I think it's like the only movie I've been involved in that I actually think is good.
so don't say the other movies just in case
Right.
there
It's like
you
no,
be
because it's like it was pure labor of love for like the
yeah.
artists. And I know like the director was also excited. And like Framestore was like the only, it's rare today. Like Framestore was like the only company working on the effects for this film
Yeah.
because it was like a UK
Do you
based.
met? Do you met? Probably not because my friend Andrew. Do you know Andrew Silke from? He's he's doing the Zoo
I
Tools.
I know by name, but I never met him.
He was working also there, but he was working at layout, if I recall correctly. Well,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Because
yeah, Andrew,
in
if
my case,
you
I wanted to join there as an animator, so I applied as an
mm,
animator. Like once I had my flat and throw my life savings in this
yeah,
risky gamble, I applied,
yeah, it was
and
yeah, amazing.
they were like,
I watched this movie on IMAX on Montreal. It was like
right,
big. Like I went with my friend Alan,
mm,
and we wait a few days until we could get like the best places in the. It was like a random day, weird hour, but we
right,
got the best seats on the IMAX. My friend,
mm,
he knew exactly which seats we wanted, so we wait for some, I think not weeks, but maybe a few days just to watch it,
mm.
so we can get that seats, and it was amazing.
Yeah, no,
Amazing.
I think that's how it should be done. I'm in a similar position now with the new Avatar. I'm gonna wait until it's not so busy, and then I'm gonna
Uh,
get the best seat so I can see it in its full glory.
yeah, I was saying I don't want to. Indeed, Andrew was here this Christmas here in Japan, and he told me like, oh, do you want to go together to see Avatar? And I said, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna wait to watch it on streaming and blah, blah, blah. I was
Oh,
like a
really?
bit of like
Okay. No, no, no.
yeah, and then I keep watching reviews of the movie, and looks like everybody's saying it's super good.
Okay, no,
Even
no spoilers now, right? Because I haven't
no,
seen anything of this
no,
movie,
no,
no
no,
trailers. I know nothing. I want to get the
no. Well,
full.
I didn't say anything. I just say that
Okay.
everybody that like in YouTube channels that they do like analysis of the movies, very like iHeart movies or author movies, indie movies, like, and they were doing this kind of ranking, like best movies of the 2022 or something like that, and and some of these, it was not only one. I follow a bunch of these channels, and they were saying like, I didn't imagine that I will put this movie in this best top 10 movies this year, but Avatar make it to the top 10 for me, and I was really surprised. I went there because you need to go and watch it, but so now I kind of changed my mind. So on Resume, I think I want to see it in theaters now. So
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, that
long story short.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it sucks. I know nothing. Like I assume it's going to be great. That's why I'm saving it until I can have.
Yeah.
Like I want the cinema to myself, basically. So no one can disturb. No kids. No food. No nothing. Just me and the movie.
No trailers, even the trailers.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, I don't want that. Yeah. Just like if it's a movie that I really want to see, I want the director's vision just injected straight into my mind. I don't want any other distractions. The way it was intended to be told. That's how I want the story.
Yeah, there was like. By the way, for the people listening, the recording, this has been recorded previous to the Oscars, so this year. So I don't know when it's gonna be released. So maybe probably it's gonna be after. There was like some. I think it's in Twitter and some chats. Some people was commenting like, should be Avatar nominated for best animation movie, or because actually it's almost all animated in maybe
you mean like so alongside the Pixar movies and stuff, you will have Avatar?
Yeah, or should be, because where is the, and it wasn't like a nice, sorry, this is a big tangent on the topic of this podcast, but I found really funny, and I think James Cameron was commenting that it's not an animated movie, it's this kind of polemic that they, and it was today, like, and I found really interesting. It was like yeah, why Avatar can compete in like best feature film, like, and Pinocchio from Guillermo del Toro cannot. Where you put it, it must be super realistic, must be like you need to do mock-up, and then if it's mock-up, then you can apply to that. Or
so Pinocchio ends up in the animated section.
Yes.
Huh.
I think. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
Well, which one though? Because one of them is live action with visual effects in it.
I'm sorry. No, I'm talking about Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Right.
Not
okay.
the live action from Disney. No. Oh my God, that
right.
one. Sorry for the director, but it was.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah, well, it was. I watched it. It was.
I started watching it. I couldn't.
It's a personal opinion, of course, everybody. But yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, why this is live action and this is not? Actually, it's. I mean, true. Even if you get very very picky, well, I guess Gravity, the one that you work at, it was like a huge amount of. I mean. It's an also, animated movie. I mean, okay, the faces and some sequences are like full live action, but the vast majority it's an impressive.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the vast majority is just the face, like literally only the face, and the whole suit and everything else is CG. So that could qualify. But then you have some shots inside of a shuttle, and there's no CG, and.
It's like your movie that you worked before, Metropia. That qualifies for live action.
Right, yeah, that would be completely animated. I mean, it's photos of real people, but the photos have been manipulated, so like they are like overpainted and like stretched, and like so they're supposed to look like, like characters. So it's not completely real.
Yeah, sorry, the big tangent here, but very interesting.
Right,
like like a rabbit hole to talk on. Yeah. what is
Yeah,
real, what is not. Sorry,
indeed.
just going back to you and your work. So you went, so you worked there, and then after working for a few years on Framestore, you decided to go to be independent. And how you did the transition? That's interesting, because you started as
Yeah,
animator at the beginning, and then
yeah.
when you finish your time at Framestore, I guess, I don't know if you've been in other companies,
Mm-mm.
you are
Right.
not
So
animator no
yeah,
more.
the transition is pretty. So the transition is that yeah, like I mentioned, when I applied to Framestore, I applied as an animator. But I hadn't checked their positions or anything. I just like, I'm an animator. I want to work for you. And like, and they told me that, well, like, there's no positions. Like, you can't, like, we're not looking for animators right now. So there's nothing for you. And that, like, as I was leaving, they were like, but we do have like a creature effects position, like a technical animator position, like, cloth, with end cloth and simulation and stuff. Like, do you want to try that? And I was like, I've never done any of that, because at that point I was only animating, like, nothing technical. I was a very pure artist driven. I looked at programming as like that's for computers to do. Like, people shouldn't be doing that.
Computers,
I
not
was
yet.
very anti programming. And
That's super funny you say that.
yeah, no, because I remembered, because I told people, like, I was like, I would never program. That's for computers to do. Us people have more important, more interesting things to do. So just like leave me out of programming land. So I got the creature effects job, because like,
Mhm.
I went home and they asked for, like, can you show us like if you can actually use nCloth for anything? So I just threw something together with nCloth, like super basic, and they were like, okay, like, fair enough. That's the job that I got on Gravity, was in creature effects, completely different from character animation. But that is where the idea for Ragdoll, for like the stuff that I'm doing now, came from,
So,
because
so that's
I
super
got to
interesting.
learn. Hmm?
It's super interesting because it was like a serendipity, like something of like that happened incidentally to you want
Right.
to go to
Yeah.
this path,
Mm.
and you want to work there, and they don't have
Yeah.
the position that you want, but they offer you this kind of
Yeah.
like looks similar technical animator, so the word animator is there, but and then
Yeah.
you realize like you go really like really down the hole, like rabbit hole, the big tangent of on your career, like okay, I got it now that.
Yeah. No, but and it was so lucky. Like, I'm very satisfied by having found programming, which came later, right? So the first was CFX, learning
Mhm.
simulation, and it was like working with simulation as an animator. I got to use it as an animator. So and that's where you learn, like, because in nCloth you can like use you can attract the cloth to another mesh, right? So
Yeah.
so now you're steering a simulation with this mesh that you're attracting to. You can animate this mesh. So now you and this is it's basically Ragdoll we're talking about, because you have
Yeah.
something that you animate, something that you simulate, and the simulated thing tries to reach your animated thing. And that
Oh.
was all of Gravity's. Like, in Gravity in particular, I was animating like those tethers between the characters. And the director wanted the tethers to like have character and have like they were supposed to feel like they were part of the movie, like, they were supposed to be their own characters, so they were very heavily art directed. And
Mhm.
so we would have our tether that we animated, and then we would just animate the strength at which you
Yeah.
would attract to it. And yeah, so like
Yeah.
because I also made like
That's
in hmm?
that's in your demo reel. I'm gonna add these later links
Right,
on the description when I post
right, I
this
mean,
this episode, and I will put a link to your demo reel because I remember you have like some like technical breakdown on these ropes that you did, these
right,
cables.
I mean, I can share the screen and show the Vimeo stuff of it, because I
Oh
brought it up
yes.
before.
Let me. Yeah, I think you can share now. Sorry, I've.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
Okay,
Okay.
let me.
I might be double sharing our. Yeah,
Let me.
okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I think it could just help give people some idea of.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're sharing a bunch of tabs. All right, let's start with this one. This is back in the days.
2000. It's wow.
So that, yeah, this is probably like this is the only breakdown that was ever released, I think, and it's not really a breakdown. They're just showing the different tethers.
Yeah. And this one,
Wait, so this was one of
it's
the.
all in cloth here.
Yeah, let's see. Well, all of the things that was like the ship crashing and stuff, all the debris, that wasn't in cloth. I think they had their own. That wasn't my department at all. But all the tethers and like obviously the suit itself was also. And yeah, I mean, this is my reels. This is a bunch of other stuff. But like this is before Framestore or after Framestore. It's around the time of between. Yeah, well, it's up to 2016.
Oh, I remember
And
that one. That
yeah, this is
that
one
was
of the
great.
Mindbender
I love it.
things.
Yeah.
And yeah, some other animated stuff. And this one I did after Gravity, because on Gravity I was also doing the rigging of the tethers. Like it got so technical that I did rigging simulation. So I did the snake afterwards using the knowledge that I gained from making the tethers. So I just wanted to continue that research to make that snake.
So this is the breakdown. I was thinking is the ropes, but it's
Oh,
for
right.
the snake.
Yeah.
Sorry, because I recall this
yeah.
what's from the
There's a longer version of this video showing like the complete breakdown. And the setup is very similar. This is how we animated the tethers on Gravity, essentially. Like they had some internal nodes that I couldn't replicate, so it's not completely accurate, but it's very similar. But yeah, so this is my background, I guess. That you have some character animation, some tethers, like this guy here, and yeah. So this is all before Ragdoll, which we haven't touched on yet, and this is my, like the first. This was one of the first things I did after school, and yeah, some mixture of stuff.
I think my latest demo reel it's from 2014. I think it's even older than yours.
Right. Yeah. This is the last one. I haven't needed to make one because I just started doing businesses and stuff. Right. So that's that. Awesome. And let me stop sharing that. And
that's super nice, man.
Let's see. Yeah, so it was on Gravity, but I got the idea for Ragdoll, right? So I wanted to make this product now. Like I had the idea I wanted to somehow make Ncloth, like the stuff that we did at Framestore, easier to do because it was very technical, and I knew that my former self would not enjoy that workflow because it is well, technical, but also very like performance slow. Like these tethers, even though it's not many vertices. Like you saw the snake, for example, like it's just a polygon strip. It might be like 50 vertices on it, like a very low res. You can have like maybe 100 if you sort of up res the mesh, but it still runs at like 10 frames per second. And you know, as animators, we need real-time feedback. You know, it's very distracting to have to animate something and like make a video to see it real time, like a play blast to see it real time. That's incredibly distracting. And it just, so as soon as it goes below 24 frames per second or whatever the real time playback rate is, it becomes just a chore. Like it changes the whole way you think about your work. So my challenge was to find a way to get Ncloth both fast but also not so technical. And so knowing that I don't know anything about programming, I most likely would have to program to actually make it fast and easier. My first attempt was to just use Ncloth and write some Python scripts to like automate the process a little bit.
Okay. And so, wait. So you're telling me you're not very artistic. Then suddenly, boom, you start doing Python, like. So you decided, okay, I need to learn coding. So you did like buy some books, watch some tutorials. So you changed you went completely, I would say berserker to learn coding.
Right.
So
yeah, I suppose I skipped a step inside of Framestore. In addition to having to learn Ncloth, I picked up Python as well. It was like a 9-month project. So it was like I had plenty of time to sort of pick up technical stuff because a lot of the things, like especially for I think most movies, it gets very repetitive. You have shots that just like are identical, and so because in Maya, whenever you do anything, it always prints out the command of how it did it. Like it's a mel command, But
Yeah,
like it
correct.
doesn't take much practice to figure out how the Python version of that looks like. So that was how I started. Just like
Okay.
make
So
like click a few things, copy those commands, and eventually figure out, okay, can I just make these into Python and get some sense of like what the Python version
mhm.
looks like? And now you can make loops, and maybe you can make like a variable, so you can like reuse things. And yeah, but the rig, it was funny because I made the rig for that tether, and after the show was done, the like the lead or supervisor, they asked like, can we have the like the script that you used to build the rig, because they were used to having like a automatic building, because it wasn't just one tether, it was like many different versions of tethers. So I made just one rig, but I made the rig like without scripting, and it was a procedural rig. So like you could change the length of it, and it would like update the controllers and stuff. But it was always like with regular nodes. Um, so yeah, so that was interesting. Like I don't think I could have scripted it at that point. It was much too basic. Because yeah, when it was, I mean, I realized that I didn't have enough programming experience to build a product or to start a company with a product. And so I started doing the enclaves, but I quickly realized, and in fact, I actually I do have some videos of what those early things looked like. Yeah, actually, yeah. Maybe I can show you. It can
Can
be
you share
interesting.
that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. So this is actually this is the this is an enclave mesh. So actually, if I click
Wait
this,
a second. This is the first prototype. That's on the website. I didn't.
yeah. So I put it. I have a little about section on the Ragdoll website.
Oh,
Maybe I can.
shame on me. I didn't check that one.
I can like I can like include the address. Yeah. So it talks about the journey that I'm covering now, and I included these sort of early videos because I thought they were very representative of what Ragdoll is today. So there's a mesh that I've skinned to these joints. So I'm deforming that mesh. And then I have another mesh which I'm simulating. And like I mentioned, like encloth has the attract to matching mesh.
Yeah.
And so now you just have the encloth mesh follow the skinned mesh. So you kind of have Ragdoll here, right? And the ball is also encloth. You can see it's like you can add pressure in encloth to make it sort of keep its volume.
Yeah, the concept is there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And at the bottom, you can see that this runs at like 7 FPS, 8 FPS. So already, like with this very basic character, you're already pushing the limits. Like you can't really animate this way. And yeah, so the next experiment is this one, which I thought was is also pretty interesting. It's pretty small now. Wait, let me see if I can.
Yeah. Now that you're telling me all this, and because I remember at the beginning when you started to develop Ragdoll, if you remember, like in one of the conversation, I think you were. I mean, you told me I want to name the company, the product, like Ragdoll, and I think you asked me what do you think, and you asked me like if there were a translation in Japanese for that. Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Because I wanted a Japanese focused name, so it's easier to find in Japan.
If I knew that, maybe you should. Now it's too late, and I'm gonna you're gonna kill me to say that. Maybe you should have named it like a Gravity Doll or something like that, so to make kind of a
right.
But I mean, still Ragdoll. It's a well known.
Yeah,
so
no, but I think
too late.
what I was looking for at that point was like a second name for it, so like for how it would be known in Japan. So it's still not too late to have a different name for it. I don't know if Ragdoll really works in Japan, and I also wanted like some Japanese characters as well, because they look cool. So for branding wise, it would be cool. But yeah, so this one is the next version of that. Now you have joints deforming a mesh, which steers the same mesh in enclave, and then that mesh drives joints. Like the mesh has follicles on it, and then the joints have like the joints have IK on them. So now the follicles drive the IK handles of the the character. So now you kind of get, so here you have, this is the start of the simulation.
It collapses. And
yeah, so I mean, obviously, he breaks his foot and stuff because.
So your first attempt, when you started researching this, you went for I mean, what you knew that was the well, and cloth and how to take advantage of the solver that you know, and then you realize like, okay, maybe this is not the way, and you start to dig on and rigid bodies and things like what you use in the web. But wait a second, just because I think I'm doing a huge jump, because I want to recall back a little bit before jumping that. I'm super interested in this, so please. But I'm very interested on your your learning journey from zero to hero of developing stuff. So you and the time frame, it's like, so you go there, it's 2011, 2012, you start learning coding. So it's 2012 to today. It's roughly 10 years, 11 years.
Yeah.
So, and during that time, so, and I have here your website, and it's funny. So you have news. Actually, you don't have, I'm going to check your GitHub also. So you become well known, obviously, before Ragdoll existed, because you did a bunch of like very successful, I will say, open source projects for the community. QTPY, that was this model. I use it in MGear, and I think everybody use it all over the place. And and then you did Publish, you did Avalon, Bleeding Res, and the last one, All Sparks. I think it's the last one. And when, how I can know when it's, because Publish is from, you say, news in your website, July 14, 2014, release of Publish. So telling me in 2 years you went from nothing, or like 2012 and 2014 releasing Publish, that it's very like, I mean, I use Publish in every project, and it's amazing. And I remember when it was released was to UI, like the QML, so how is your, I mean, just tell me your secret. How do you study? I mean, how do you learn all these things? And don't tell me you're genius, because I don't, well, maybe I try, I believe that also, but must be something, hard work.
I very much doubt that. No, so I mean, the story leads into this. It was after I did these nCloth examples and realized that nCloth and nCloth with some quick Python scripting, like the basic that I knew at that point, just it wasn't enough to fulfill the vision that I got at Framestore working with these tethers. Like I wanted it to be common, like everyday occurrence for all animators that don't know anything technical to be able to benefit in the way that I had on the tethers, because there were so many benefits. Because you could block something out, and the simulation would make it final immediately. So like you would block something, send it off to review, like to dailies to have a look at it, and it would always be final, right? The only thing that was being questioned was like, was it doing what it was supposed to do? Like, was the message clear? It was never a question of like, does it move realistically, or does it intersect with things unnecessarily? That was never a concern. Like so every version was a potential final, and I wanted that benefit for it, because animation is not like that. Animation, you submit a blocking, which is not, it couldn't possibly be finished, and then you do like a linear key, like you sort of transition closer and closer to both the message of the shot, like what is he supposed to communicate to the audience, and the realism of the shots. You work on those two in parallel. And a lot of times, by the time it gets to the end or close to the end, you have to change the message, which messes up all of the realism. So now you have to redo the realism. And even when you're done with the message, you have to work on the realism, which might change the message, because you have to make some changes to make it real. But now it doesn't really say the same thing. So you have to continuously work on both of these at the same time. And when one of them changes, it breaks the other. And it's like I had none of that. So with nCloth, with these tethers, my focus was only ever on what is the message, how should it, like what should it be doing? So that's what I want. So I realized that nCloth and scripting is not enough to achieve that. And so I needed to know programming. Like I knew that. To build a software product, I needed a company and skills. and that's where Abstract Factory came in. Like I started this company with the idea of making software that was somewhere closer to the level of someone just starting out. And I mean, I overestimated my ability a lot. I wanted to make like the whole Framestore pipeline. Like I wanted to, because I worked with their pipeline. I was like, I can do this better. And so I set out to make a standalone third-party pipeline that I could then integrate with content and sell it as a product. So it was going to have the file management and asset management and the asset loading into Maya, the publishing aspect, and then like the review aspect. Like I was supposed to have the whole thing, and I built a lot of those things, but they weren't very good because I still wasn't a very good programmer. But the one thing that sort of came out of that process was publish. So like that was the one thing that sort of survived that process. And I would say the fact that it's lasted until now is partly luck. I mean, it was a gamble. Like I gambled on the way that it was written and like the way data travels through it, because it's a data-oriented thing, which I had been reading about at the time, like on the side, like what is data-oriented, what is like using traditional classes and calling function, and so yes, it was a pretty experimental thing to have done, but it worked, and so I learned a lot through that process. And because the first version of Publish was not, you wouldn't look at that and think that it's particularly interesting. It was when I was just learning Python, but it developed over time. So like I spent years on it, right? So like to put it where it is today, and even to this day, I still maintain it. So like it's still something that's been updated continuously for a long time.
I see. Like, well, the Qt one, it's like November, like, and I didn't check the publish, but I guess, but yeah. So basically, the way I guess that's not a secret after all. It's just you study something, you're reading books and try to apply it to in a project right now. Maybe it's not the best solution, and like you say, like maybe you're not sure if the approach that you took for this data-oriented programming was the best, but it worked, and you use it because you were learning at the moment that thing, so you just put it in practice, everything. So I guess that's that's the secret.
And at some point around that time, Qt released the whole QML thing, and QML was supposed to be the successor to regular Qt widgets, which didn't really happen. I mean, to this day, we have the benefit of hindsight, and so I was like, okay, if I'm going to make a UI, I don't want to use something that's going to be deprecated any moment now, so I'm going to have to make it in QML. And so so I learned QML, which is not that difficult. I think that's it's much easier to learn than Python, that's for sure. A lot of the scripting is JavaScript, which is also very similar to Python. So that also, I could sort of leverage a lot of the Python skills in that. And let's see. I mean, the challenge with QML, especially at the time, is that whereas you could run a UI straight, and you can call on Qt from Maya directly. I'm sorry. Oh, it's my cold. You can call Qt from Maya directly, and you can get a window running, and you can make buttons, and you can call on like Maya Python. Like it's embedded, but QML was not like that, especially not at the time. I think even now, you probably, because they had a version where they let's see, when they transitioned to Qt 5 in Maya, they distributed QML with that. But then the next version of Maya, they didn't distribute QML. And then the next version, they did distribute. So it was very difficult for me. I think this must have been like 2020.
Yeah, the maintenance, when you have these kind of issues, it's very very annoying, and
right.
I can imagine. Yeah, so, and I remember, I used the PySide, but the Publish, but the light version, that it's the one that uses the widgets. That it's really great. I mean, the interface, it's not as shiny and like, let's say, like super cool like the other one, but it's super cool. I mean, but because you compare one to another, if you don't compare, it's amazing. The interface and all steps and everything, I found it very, very intuitive to use and very, very easy. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So for those who don't know, right? So publish is the Python framework, and it has two UIs. And one of the UIs, QML, was made initially because that's what I thought that's where the future was going. But it required a pretty difficult installation setup. You had to have a separate Python installation, a separate PyQt installation, and then you would launch that from Maya, and they would communicate, in a complicated way. So a lot of times it didn't work for people, and so I made a second UI, which was not as feature complete, but it ran inside of Maya. Like, so you would call it like any other Python tool inside of Maya, including like Houdini and stuff. So it was Python and Qt,
yeah,
like a native to these apps already.
it works not in only Maya. We talk always Maya, 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 but it's actually works in different diseases. That
Right. So whatever embeds Python could use it, and well, that's one of the areas where the QML has
yeah, actually, the last one you did, like as a public, like was not all Sparks. That was the one that you did with when we were working together for a brief period of time in Anima. Yeah.
Mm.
That was super fun to have you there
Right.
for.
Yeah.
It was
also,
1 week, 2 weeks only, and then you work remotely. What's
Yes, exactly. I was in Japan for 2 weeks, I think, and then the project itself was like at least 3 or I think 4 months to develop that tool.
Yeah,
and that was in between, because now we're talking about 2018 or something. So that's further into the future.
Yeah, I'm terrible with dates, but yeah, around that time, yeah, probably.
Because it was maybe 16 or 17 around that time. No, I think it was maybe 20. So I mean, that's it. So like to continue the timeline, maybe let's see if we can keep it chronological. Publish was released, and like one of the tools I had to make for publish was some way to use both PySide and PyQt, because not everyone at that point, because today PySide 2 is the thing that you would write your UI in. Like, there's no question. Why would you use PyQt today? Because in the past, Maya didn't bundle PySide. So you had to like download it and install it. So if you could download, which should you choose? It was not clear which one was the best. So I had to make something like a wrapper to be able to accommodate my publish UI with whichever they chose to use.
Yeah, that's the Qt. That it's the official wrapper. I will dare to say in the industry. Unless VFX and animation, I think everybody uses Qt. I don't like sometimes like I vendor Qt with MGear, like I put it there.
Yeah.
And
that's the idea.
And many people does the same. And from time to time I update it. I get the latest one to be when I found out that something is working. And I should do it more often.
It's stable today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stable today because Qt4 and 5 are both stable. That they're not going to change much. So Qt5 is also stable by definition. But people are looking into making it compatible with PySide 6. So I think it might be changing in a bit. But there's a few things I need to catch up for that. I think only Blender really uses it.
You have 809 stars and 248 forks. Boom.
Right.
Well, MGear not bad.
You're talking about the GitHub
just repository. I believe it or not, I didn't check. I didn't know how many we have on MGear. It's not. I mean, it's not that bad. I'm not gonna say the numbers, but it's.
I wouldn't put too much weight into the stars. It doesn't really.
Yeah, but it's. I'm surprised. Let's say this. I'm surprised we have some.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I did the Qt and then command text was probably the latest one you did.
Right.
Command text.
Command X was made for well, so if we're jumping, that Command X was made during the wait shift period. So in 2016, that's when I do another freelance project. It's also Framestore. It was Dr. Strange, also Cloth, also steering with animation. It was after Abstract Factory when I felt like I have enough experience to get started on making a software product, but I haven't worked in the industry now, like animation, for a while. So I needed to sort of polish up my skills. So I went back into the industry work on Doctor Strange, the first one, and that was great. And then shortly after that, I wanted to start my company, and so I got together a team. It was it was another rigger actually at Framestore as well. Someone who could someone with technical background in rigging, like I had some, but I still needed some help. And it was a robotist, like an AI researcher, like a lecturer at Oxford University, so here in the UK. So like a very, well suited, because I wanted to get into, it was machine learning was quite new back then. And I wanted to see where I can take character animation with physics simulation and machine learning. Like it was like a very interesting project. And so I got a team of those two and me, along with an investor. And the investor was also like someone that I knew in the past from the Mindbender days. And let's see. So I gathered this team. It took about 6 months, if not more, to just to find everyone, to get everyone to sort of to commit their time to this new company, this project. And then the week, if not a few days before we were set to start, we have a customer that we've talked to that wants this product. We were going to build it for them. We had an office space. We had people have left their this rigger had left her job to join this company.
Wow.
Everything was set. And in the last few days before, the investor goes, I can't get a hold of the money for this project. We can't pay anyone.
Oh,
and
that's horrible.
That was so it's
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Well, no, it's not very. I mean, it's not.
Sorry.
That's
a terrible situation. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty shit. I mean, it was mostly the shit for the person who had to leave her job, because she had to then oh, I have to go find another one. There was no.
Yeah.
So that was the worst. And because the Oxford lecturer obviously still had his regular job. He was supposed to be part-time, and for me, I was very flexible. I could start something else. It was not great. I had to start over with this whole 6 months period of finding a team and stuff. Not great. Yeah, that was pretty shit. So after that, let's see. So now we're in 2017. That's when I go out and I find a new team. They start from scratch. But this time I didn't want any funding. So let's see. How does it fit together here? I think this was the time when I went to Anima to build Allspark, because then I used the freelance budget that I got from that project to bootstrap my own income for this new team. And this was the company Weight Shift, which consisted of myself and 2 engineers. And these engineers also very lucky, because there was a company here in the UK called Natural Motion, and they were doing a similar physics kind of tool called Endorphin that some will have heard about. It's very unique.
Yeah, I recall,
and it was famous for its thing. Very, 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 very niche. And so they made Endorphin, which was like a film product, which was physics simulation and character animation. And then they made Euphoria and Morphine, which was the game version of that. So something to run in real time. And the thing that they are famous for is their involvement in Grand Theft Auto, when you 4 and 5, when pedestrians get hit, they sort of they can react a little bit, and they're they're ragdolls basically. They're ragdolls that can balance and walk around and respond to stuff. But that company went they didn't go bankrupt. They got bought. So there was another company that a big corporation bought them, and then they just axed all of the products that they were doing. And the only thing they kept was a mobile game that they had been working on the side to bring in some extra cash, because these niche products, they didn't sell very well.
Yeah,
because they're too niche.
Technology is difficult to develop, but then it's sometimes it's very difficult to market or to get return of the investments on. That's the reality.
It's also that our industry is quite small. So if you make a product, you can't put the resources into it that you could if you were to make,
Yeah.
I don't know, like a car or
Yeah.
whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
there's not enough budget for too large of a
Yeah,
team, and
that's the
they
reason
were too large of a team.
I think will not come another Softimage, Max, or Maya, or anyone on this level, the macro DCC that does everything like
Right.
even well now obviously Blender is there, like it's a maybe something unique on his own, but what I'm saying is like it's not gonna come today any big tech company and create a full-fledged DCC to create 3D content like
Right.
like we know all these others. It's gonna be like Nvidia that does the Omniverse. It's gonna be probably others coming that I probably forgetting now, but doing these small things. But yeah, I think yeah that is also like the situation. You cannot. I mean the business itself is not that good that it used to be, or I don't know at the beginning or early times like in the 90s or things like that. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean you have Omniverse like you mentioned, and you have Unreal Engine also coming into the market, but they are both I mean in the case of Unreal Engine, they are focused on games, which is a much bigger market than film.
Yeah.
I think they're like at least 10 times bigger. At least those were the numbers from like a few years ago, but I think now they're even bigger because of COVID. So you have that. They have a bigger audience to cater to, so there's more money for Epic. But then Omniverse, I think they started wanting to get into film, but they're steering away from that because they realized that there's not enough money there. So like they're focused on like manufacturing and car design and stuff like that.
I think well it depends, because Omniverse is kind of a platform, a framework that you can build other tools on top. So you have I think it's called Create. I'm shame on me because I use it that tool.
Yeah, it's called
Create Studio or something like that. It's the one that it's closer to like the DCCs that we know, but it has a lot of applications. So it's kind of a framework to build other applications on top. But yeah, it's not the same approach. Definitely. But yeah, sorry, another big tangent there.
Yeah, no, that's all right. But yeah, going back to the wait shift. So like they just got bought, all the engineers were fired, and so I picked up. I just happened to also start wait shift at that time, and they were just happening to like just leave the company. I basically stood outside the door and be like, hey, join me. Like I'm gonna start a company making physics tool for animators. That's exactly what you've been doing and you want to keep doing. So let's do it. And then we did. That was great. It was like it lasted for about 2.5 years. And we got two customers. Like at that point I didn't know how to market or anything, or how to make anyone aware of what we're doing. So we contacted people directly, and we managed to get so Framestore was one of their customers because I already had connections there, and Weta was another customer because they already had connections there, and so that was good. Like that was the product was working.
2 clients, but what are clients?
2 clients, but they were big clients. Yeah, it was big clients.
Really big.
Like there was
what is the biggest on VFX, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in terms of
kind of get bigger.
Well, I don't know.
I think
VFX. I think Technicolor might be because they've absorbed so many companies now. I think they might have bigger numbers.
I'm sorry, I'm talking without knowing, but yeah, sorry.
But yes, like in any company, like you have 2 options for searching for customers, or you have 2 types of customers. One is the individuals, so there's lots of them, and the other one is the whales. So normally a company would choose to hunt either whales, in which case you get 1 sale every couple of months, but it's enough to keep you going because there's a lot of cash, or you get lots of small sales, and that's enough to keep you going because each one of them together is also big. So yeah, so in that case for Wageshift, we chose the route of hunting whales. So we contacted individuals, worked slowly. But the company didn't last because me and my colleague, like my other co-founder, we didn't get along. So like just for like personal reasons, the company also exploded. And the bummer there was that we all had equal shares, so it didn't really work if one of us didn't work. So that's also a lesson. So first lesson is don't look for investment, I guess. And the second lesson is don't find any co-founders. Like these are very general advice that they don't apply to many people or to everyone. So So after wait shift, so now we're in Ragdoll days. So the Command X project that you mentioned before, which is a Python wrapper around the Maya API. So it's supposed to be just PyML but fast, and also embeddable like Qt. So that was the goal of that, because I needed something that was fast, and I couldn't just use the Command S module because it's like, I don't know, that's impossible to work with, like, because like the names of things change. So that's the main thing, and it also wasn't fast enough. And PyML was convenient but not fast enough either. So Command X was like it was born out of that need, and I carried that with me into Ragdoll, which has no investors and no co-founders. So now everything is great. So instead of co-founders, now I hire people. I actually give them money, and they give me services.
That's
like
great.
Now everything.
Let's talk a little. Just before wrapping with I need to I remember like 1 year or so ago, I was checking Command X, and because in MGear we use PyML, but I want to get rid of PyML. I'm not but it's so deep, so I'm thinking or do my own wrapper, or I was thinking to I was checking yours, and there is another, I think Perry, good friend of mine living here in Tokyo, also did another one. So I'm checking on wrappers, and in the future I don't know what I'm gonna do. I really like yours, but also I need to
okay.
I want to do like one that I don't need to refactor that much. Because remember, you were the person when I started with MGear. You were the person to encourage me to refactor everything in Pep8 and a lot of like changes on the structure. And I remember like, are you willing to buy the bullet? And jumped on that, and I spent like a few months just cleaning up code and refactoring everything, and just putting all like pimp and clean, so I can put it like open source, like trying to generate community and other people can contribute. Because back to the point, I mean, like Jeremy code was really great and still there. I mean, I didn't change that much on that, but the accessibility like comment like was not that easy than is now. But yeah, so I guess in the future comes another refactor with maybe Command X.
There's a little comparison chart at the bottom. If his project is not in there, I'd like to put that there, because I've tried finding all the wrappers that exists, because I mean, initially I didn't want to write a wrapper.
I can send you Perry wrapper also. I will put it also on the comments. It's gonna be a lot of information on this episode.
The Command X wrapper, that was also a major gamble, because like all of the wait shift and now all of Ragdoll, I mean, it's built on top of it. So if that didn't work, it would be like the foundation for the whole tool. It was also a major risk that took that also just happened to work out. I think
it's the one that's on your repository is the latest one, or do you have another fork? I'm just asking.
No.
Sorry.
That's the latest one. Yeah. I do have like because I embed it in Ragdoll, so the Ragdoll will have the same, if not slightly updated. Sometimes I push the one I'm using there, but I think
I see. So, but the other one, I guess it's not public. So yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, Ragdoll is public too. No, you could actually grab the one from Ragdoll directly, but I mean, I wouldn't do that. But you can see if they are any different, because Ragdoll, like the Python package of Ragdoll, is also on GitHub. It's also public.
Yeah.
Command X will be embedded there.
Oh yeah, I will in GitHub. Yeah, it's there. Sorry, I'm looking. My camera's there. Looks like I'm looking to the other side, but yeah.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump to Ragdoll, man. That's it.
Sure.
That's your present company software. So it's both. It's your company name and your the software name. And I think I'm very kind of I will say privileged, because I saw from the beginning Ragdoll growing and changing and evolving, and I saw all your eureka moments, or some of them. I will say not all, but I remember when you like when you like the markers were like a
Yeah,
big like, look, you can do, and you explain all this mocap
yeah.
concept and everything. That was super nice, and
Yeah,
I was like,
indeed.
yeah. Like, and it took me like at the beginning, like every new concept, because I was using the first version, and it was kind of like, yeah, that's cool. And then you just you start changing all these markers thing,
Mm.
and I remember the other one become depreciated, but the markers were not complete yet. So at some point I was like juggling one project I was working at, giving some like doing some consulting that we were using Ragdoll.
Yeah,
And
I remember.
the yeah, it was like, can we use this? And I say, yeah, but it's hard because
Mm.
Marcus is gonna release next week. Next week it's gonna have that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
don't read this character with the old system, because Marcus and it was kind
Yeah,
of like
indeed.
this. It
It was
was,
the early access days.
yeah, it was super nice. And yeah, but yeah,
Oh, yeah, but no, but
let's,
you are, yeah, you are especially in a unique position because the first the first the first company I spoke with about Ragdoll was Anima, like the where you worked at the time,
yeah,
and it was their requirements that I built Ragdoll for initially, which was like
yeah,
skirts, hair, ponytails, and stuff like that.
yeah, I remember. I'm
So
sorry
yeah, so
because
you,
I have to
mhm,
say, because I was a rigging supervisor there, um, but I was not in charge of the character effects department.
mm,
That was
mm,
another person. So sadly, I was kind of like watching from the fence many of the progress, because I was super busy doing the work for my task, and I couldn't. I'm sorry for that. I remember.
that's all right.
I need to apologize publicly here, because the times I said, "Oh, this feature, I want to check it," and you told me, "Ah, if you can give me feedback," and then silence, because I didn't have a second. Like I was doing like
Right,
overtimes,
yeah,
and
that's true.
like
Yeah.
was like, and I felt
That's all right.
terrible for that. Like sometimes
No, no,
happening.
I got plenty of feedback from the other artists, like then the riggers working at the time as well. And so like that's just generally because I mentioned before that for the first company with the investor that backed out, we also had like a customer before we even started building anything. And this was another case of that. I think that's something that I would, if we have any startup or people interested in starting a business or building a product, step one is finding a customer to build it for. And that was, in this case, it was Anima. So to focus on, to satisfy at least one customer with your tool, that's a very good start. So that's what I did here.
Um,
And
yeah,
let's see.
and
Yeah, at the time it
just
was,
I'm sorry, just jump in one question. I'm just curiosity on that. So Ragdoll, you told me like it's um, in the previous company was more like the big whales, but here in Ragdoll, I think you focusing more like
yeah,
that's something maybe interesting to comment like.
right, exactly. Yeah, it's the exact opposite approach. I'm trying to approach the individual animator directly now because which I think if I started a new company, I would do that again as well, because I found that if you contact the CEO of some company or even like the supervisor of some company and say, hey, we have this tool, and you convince that guy, and then you rely on him convincing the staff that this is a good tool, you should use it. It's the friction, like it's very, it's
Mm,
not a good, it is not a good approach. Like it's very artificial. Like you can't have a supervisor force people to use a tool like
mm-hmm,
that. That never works. So now I'm going the opposite way. I'm starting from the artist, because if I can make one artist really like it,
mm-hmm,
that artist will share it with the other artists. And at one point, they will go to their supervisor, be like, "We're really excited about this tool. We want to get this tool." And then they go to whoever makes the purchase. And now the person making the purchase is like the artist have asked for it.
mm,
So both both for big companies and for just selling directly to individuals. Because if you have a freelancer, for example, hears about a tool and they're excited about that and they want to get it, still works. Like the same marketing approach, the same sort of social media, where the same approach to the
mm-hmm,
software itself fits for the individual. It also fits for any sized company. So that I would do again, and I would recommend most people to do that, because it
mm,
is two different strategies. Like in your business books or whatever, you have companies that chase whales, which is relevant in some cases. I think like for Microsoft selling their Office 365 suite, for example, they wouldn't approach individual office workers, they go to the CEO and sell it for their organization.
I think this now that you comment that, I remember a conversation, maybe it was with you commenting on that, or someone like they changed the approach of selling. They were selling the Word and all these things for the individual users, like as a retail thing, and then they changed the approach for. I remember, maybe not to read or to talk to someone about that in the past, but anyway, sorry, yeah, another tangent.
Okay, I'm not familiar with their past approaches, but they are typically enterprise oriented. Like people working at an office will use their products, but they were not the one to choose to use it. They're like, here's the tool that you're going to use to do this, and you know, that could work for Ragdoll and like maybe MGear as well. Like you convince the company, like, here's the tool we rig with, and then they just have to learn it and get used to it. It's like it is a valid approach. It's just it didn't work for Ragdoll, or for Weightshift rather, and I think this works a lot better. So I think it depends on who has the power to actually create the purchase. And in this case, I think the artist is the one that can indirectly affect the person who makes the purchase.
Yeah, that's yeah. I think for MGear, I mean the now it's also my business, so it's the approach is totally different. I'm just giving services about MGear, but the software it's completely free and open source. But yeah, I think like in the last year and so, or 2 years that I've been doing this, now the approach was more like yours on Ragdoll, like was one rigger or one animator to start using MGear and bring it to the studio or to the company and say, okay, we can use this open source software for our pipeline, and then they grow, and then, well, eventually if they need help and I'm lucky, maybe they contact me to give the services. So it's I will say it's similar in the I didn't plan anything, or honestly when I started this I didn't know how it's gonna end up, but yeah, looks like organically it ended up like you described, like that's one animator that brings back to the studio.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's a better approach also, because you get to interact with the actual customer, because otherwise I would be interacting with the supervisor who never actually used the tool. So then you don't really know, you can't get any feedback from him. You would have to get like secondary, like they would tell him, and then so like, I think there are enough benefits to go the grassroots approach, as it's called.
Yeah. And I think the relation, I really like this kind of relation. I think it's very, very healthy. And honestly, I don't know. I guess for you it's gonna be the same. Even your tool is not open source, but because the users are the users are the person like that uses that. It's not like the boss that's going down. So the user has the interest to use your tool first. Then the community, the approach, like you have your forum. Before, I remember, was the Discord channel, and you have a community that are very invested on your tool, and you are also like with the community to receive feedback and to improve. And I saw many of the conversations happening that you did changes, and you did stuff based on these relations with the user that I think it will not happen if it's the other direction. If it's the boss who impose that, they don't feel that attachment to you or to your tool, because we are I mean, we're small. We are not like you say, like Microsoft. The people can reach to you and say, hey, Marcus.
If you focus on solving like the individual user's problem, then they will feel invested in the solution that you give them, rather than the opposite, where you solve a general problem and they won't know who to contact if there's an issue. So you get a direct connection. That's also a good thing.
Yeah, and I think
I try and make that a point on the forum. Like whenever anyone especially if there's any bug, like I try and make it a point that I will fix the bug like on the spot. Like I will just put everything aside that I'm doing, fix this thing, and release a new version.
How you do that?
Because I think it's important because it encourages people to speak up, to report bugs. Because the worst thing that happens is someone reports a bug and they expect it to just end up in this sort of bucket, like no one will hear it. It's like someone has a problem and you hold up the trash can, like just put it in my filing cabinet for issues, like like people don't like that, but yeah. So if people get the feeling that they actually have a direct impact and they can actually have that problem solved like on the spot, then they will be encouraged to do more of that. So even though it's like it's really inconvenient to just interrupt everything, and if you have a deadline that you set for yourself, you kind of have to shift that. That's inconvenient, but the benefit is that you get a more active community. Actually,
I do it sometimes, and yeah, and here, well, my approach it's slightly different because I don't know if it's an excuse. You can criticize me here if you want, but because right now, obviously, at the end, I think both of us like develop a software or a plugin or something that is being used, and the way that we do the living on this software is slightly different. But for me, for instance, because I give the services on the software, so it's not that I don't sell the software, I give the services on the software, and some of the services like consulting or support, and the support means like I have to give priority to my clients' bugs fixing, or if there is a small adjustments that I need to do for his pipeline, that creates, I mean, if it's let's say a free user like the forum and they report bugs, and I always try to reply. I'm sorry guys, this is a note for the users. I know I'm very delayed on replying topics on the forum, sorry for that. I need to put time aside, but trust me, I don't open the topics, so it's still closed there, so I remember I need to repeat. Okay, end of the quote there for the basically what I try to do is keep track of the bugs and fix it as basically client-wise priority have. So because at the end of the day is what it pays my bills. So and sadly it's that. So if nobody of my clients complain for a bug, I'm gonna fix it eventually, but maybe it's gonna be not like you on the spot. It's gonna take some time, and sorry for that.
It's different. You wouldn't. I think you wouldn't approach it in the same way because your landscape is different. I think it makes much more sense to focus on the customer that actually pays. In my case, the paying customers are the ones reporting the bug. So I would also add that, well, obviously, like if there's too many bug reports coming in, then I also would be overwhelmed and like not be able to physically actually do that. I think in my case, like it might be luck or that people just don't report most of it. I don't get many bug reports. Like I'd like to think that my test suite is very bulletproof, that I do catch all of them before it goes out. That's what I would like to think. But I think, more likely that people report just enough bugs for me to be able to do it. So I think that's one factor. And I would also add that by fixing all of them, even the ones from a customer that maybe haven't bought it, maybe they're just trialing it, but by fixing all of them on the fly, like publicly, it will make anyone else seeing it. Like I think that's the more important part. If people around the bug being fixed can see that this developer fixes bugs instantly, I think that's more important, because now you're building the reputation and the brand. And because like you mentioned, you've already seen a thread where I fixed something, like it was a conversation about a fix. So I think that's important. And if there's too many like thanks for the report, we'll look into it later, then the surrounding audience will also see that and they'll learn that there's no point for me in submitting any bugs.
No, normally what I do, it's I thanks for the report. I reply, and if it's in the forum, normally it's in the forum. Sometimes there is directly on GitHub, but what I do is, look, I created this GitHub ticket. It's there. It's in this project. It's on my to-do list. And if anybody goes to GitHub, because it's all open, they can see. I lately I'm fixing every day. I have commits, so it's not like I stop doing anything. But also they can see now. Well, at this point we are only at 2 days. It's Tomas, that's another developer that is helping me for a short period of time, and myself, the only active developers that we have on the project right now. There's another team members that they from time to time they help, but obviously because it's not pay, it's open source. So it's Tomas. I hired Tomas. But the majority of the people that contribute, it's for free. So obviously it's high takes, but that's also like something that you're doing well now, I think, and I'm very happy for you, because I know you started this alone within your infinite amount of hours there on work, but now little by little you're growing now. No, I don't know if you can disclose a little bit on that, but
of course.
I know.
I didn't give like an overview of the company or anything, so we know the timeline approximately. So it started in early 2020. Early 2020 in secret, and a year later of working with Anima, then it became public. Like then was released like a version people could actually buy, early access. At that point, it was still only me. So I think the first person that I hired was later in 2021, shortly after the first release. So I hired David, my Python tools developer. And over time, pretty consistently, I've hired new people. The last 2 weeks has been especially dense, I guess, because I've hired 2 people in the last 2 weeks. So now in total, we are 7. And that's why I have this little desk behind me, because I hired an assistant. So she's also going to help me since yesterday. And then the week before that, I hired a technical writer. So someone's going to be focused entirely on the written documentation.
I just have to say one thing. I think it's better if you get a laptop for your assistant and not a typing machine.
It's a little joke. Yeah, it's like a retro typing machine, like a physical version.
Okay. Because I'm looking at there, your background is very clear here, and say it's a beautiful, clean, minimalistic, but I don't know if the tool is the right one.
No, it's like a 60s typewriter. It's a vintage.
It's nice.
And and before then, like I hired, I'm hoping to hire one more person within the next months, but I think it depends on that particular person. It's going to make video tutorials. So I'm hoping that comes through, because that will be 8. And so I mean the general skills that we have. So with the Python tools developer David, I have a roboticist with me based in Greece, and I have a graphics programmer with me down in Australia. So like we're all distributed, as you might notice, except for me and my assistant. And then we have, so the Python is in Taiwan. I mean, David, the Python developer, is in Taiwan. We got Jason making the demos over in Vancouver.
I know his demos.
Technical writer is in Brazil, and I'm hoping to hire the animator tutorial guy. He's going to be in Canada and on the other side of Canada. And let's see, did I miss anyone? I think that's it. And then me.
Wow, that's amazing, man. That's
it's pretty good.
Yeah, really nice. And okay, so we're hitting 1 hour 30 the mark. I don't know. I have a ton of questions, and I think we I don't want to
do a little fire question session.
Yeah, well, no, I don't. But yeah, like let's talk maybe just very quickly, because Ragdoll 3.0 was released a couple of months ago. So all this talk, all this growing, all this thing, and
2 months
now
ago.
that it's getting real momentum, I think you already have 3.0 on the market. So that's crazy. So it's not like we're gonna no, it's 3.0 now.
Yeah, I like to make a major incremental version when there's something significant changed. So the first time was like you mentioned, with the markers, and that just changed the whole performance aspect. Before, it used to be that you can run one character at 24 frames per second. It was just fast enough to run, but now you can run 10 of them. Like markers changed a lot, and the workflow is also a lot better, much more intuitive. It's not so invasive into the scene. Before, it used to be that it took over your animation channels, like you just connect it straight to your translate and
Yes,
rotate
I
channels.
remember.
People didn't like that. I didn't like that. I couldn't see any other way until markers came around and just like, so now everything is very smooth. It also laid the foundation for 3.0, which is the next major change, or not a change. This is an addition this time, which is the live mode thingy.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I want to do with Ragdoll is not just, I don't just want to add secondary animation to characters. I want to encourage new animators to learn character animation without the technical barrier of even Maya. Like I don't generally share a lot of the roadmap, but I mean, what I would say is that we're gonna leave Maya, like, or rather, we're gonna extend beyond Maya. There's still going to be a Maya version, but there's primarily going to be a standalone version. But before we get there, I want to replace the need for an animator to use controls like the NURBS controls in Maya to pose a character. And this live mode is a first version of that, where you can just click and drag on a limb or wherever and just drag it.
I was about to say, when you gonna put me out of business? Just give me the date so I'm getting ready.
I'm certainly working
joking,
on
but yeah,
I'm working on an
cool, man.
Well, it's going to be an alternative to rigging. Like that's going to be the case, because I want to appeal to well, like my goal is to appeal to 5-year-olds. Like I want kids to be able to pick up 3D character animation. Today they can't do that, right? Because today they have to learn Maya or even, or Blender, like whatever. Something very technical stands in the way between someone wanting to express their storytelling vision and actually doing it. There's something very technical in between there. So that's my main, like, overarching goal with Ragdoll. And this, step one before going standalone, where a 5-year-old can actually use it, I want to replace the need to pose with NURBS controls. And I want to replace the need to rig a character as well. So like, this is not, it's not putting riggers out of jobs. It's just expanding our market to a new audience.
I'm just gonna cry in the corner now. No, just
no, it's
no, but I know. I'm looking forward for that. To be honest, a part of my work of rigging, I always try to do my projects that you give me advice long ago, and I never finished that project. Sorry for that. Again, more apologies. But I really want to use Ragdoll to animate that part, and I'm thinking, like, seriously, I just because
I think it's a good project. I think yeah.
And that's the thing. Because I'm equivalent to a 5-year-old animator, like my skills. So I need that.
Okay, and in that case, it might be a good fit then, like because the let's see. So once I replace the need to pose with Maya tools and the need to rig with Maya tools, I also want to replace the graph editor in Maya as well. So I want to remove the need for a graph editor, because, like, if you think about it, if you were to introduce a 5-year-old to animation and then try and explain the graph editor to them, like, it's a mathematical visualization of like value change over time. But we've gotten so used to it that I think we're like in Stockholm syndrome mode. We will protect it because we love the graph editor. Well, I mean, most animators, I think they were married to it. They would. I love it too. Like I grew up inside the graph editor, so it's very precious.
Yeah, the splines are very, very appreciated for animator. I really like I was more like a dropship animator, especially when I was I was an animator in some point in my career also, but I was terrible. Like, really, I've been paid as an animator, but oh my god, I don't know how I get that. But anyway, so the thing is, and I really like it. The dropship, I really like it. I ended up animating sometimes in twos, like really not using the graph editor. But in Maya, that was optimized. There was amazing dropship that you can do a lot of stuff there. Maya, it's an old thing that nobody cares because everybody uses the graph editor. And I don't know your approach how it's gonna be, but I really also like the Rafan Zobin and his ephemeral rig and the approach that he used for animation.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think that's a good approach.
It's very appealing for me, these approaches, honestly. And as you can see, I'm all in for this liberation. I think Raf compare these new breakthroughs, and I think what you commented also that it's gonna be like what ZBrush did for sculpting, completely disrupted the sculpting process. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's
that's
the
a
same,
high bar. Yeah, I mean it's a high bar, but I mean that's I'm aiming for that. And then you should, it's as they say that you should aim higher than you think you can do, so that at least you get high, not highest. So, so I'm
it's
aiming
always
for the highest.
but it's always important to just to I mean later. Well, we will see. Nobody knows, but at least to try to do these kind of things, changes and
but I think it's important to point out that because I mentioned before, our market is very niche, especially in the film industry. So with this, I'm not looking to like replace the tiny niche that we have. I want to expand upon it because I think that there's lots of people out there, just like there are people out there who wants to make music at home. Like they would get some music tool like a Cubase or Live or whatever, and they would make music. They can do that. That's something that's within everyone's ability to do. Or like if you just want to draw, you can use a piece of paper and you can do that. So a lot of people have some need to express their creative, like if it's a sculpture or a painting or a drawing or a story, whatever, they can do those things. But if you have a vision for a animation, like how that's you can 2D animate, but that's already a super high bar. So I want to make that I want to put character animation in that bucket, in that category. So you can choose to draw today, or you can choose to 3D character animate. Like those are so far apart today. So that's what I want to do. So I want to grow our industry essentially.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I'm in that position right now. Like personally, my work, I love my work. I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I don't think I'm gonna change anytime. But I also want to create in my spare time, like a love for animation and like creativity, and I don't know, it's something that I guess many people has that, but the barrier even for me that I'm working on animation daily base, and it's so difficult. I mean, I like to create like a little, also like a short film, a little piece animated. I admire the people that can put off one little piece, not even a short film, like just a clip and post it on Instagram, something like that. It's a colossal work. Like
it's a huge time investment and skill investment, and I don't think it needs to be. I think a lot of people have those ideas that they could do if it wasn't for the technical bit. So those are the people that I want to reach.
Yeah, I'm totally on that. Well, so I think maybe we should wrap here. I'm sorry, you starting your work day today, and
indeed,
and I feel terrible to stretch this more, but I think it was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time.
No, it's my pleasure. No, thank you for having me.